A baby's first moments in life should be filled with warmth, love, and safety. But for one newborn, life began with heartbreak. In a small, quiet home, a mother gave birth to a beautiful baby. Her cries of joy echoed through the house, and by her side sat a devoted German shepherd, watching over the tiny new life with gentle eyes. This dog had been a loyal companion to the family for years, and now he seemed to understand that his role had just become even more important. But fate had other plans. Tragedy struck suddenly. The details remain unclear, but one thing is certain: within hours, both parents were gone. The house, once full of love, turned into a place of silence and sorrow. And in the middle of it all, an innocent newborn lay helpless in the crib, unaware that the two people who should have protected them were never coming back. 4 hours, the baby's cries filled the empty house. No one came. No one answered. But someone was listening. The German shepherd's ears perked up. He sniffed the air, his heart pounding as he realized something was terribly wrong. Instinct took over. He rushed to the crib, looking down at the tiny, fragile human he had sworn to protect. And at that moment, the dog made a decision, one that would change both of their lives forever. What happened next is nothing short of incredible. Stay with me, because this story will take you on an emotional journey you won't forget. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more heartwarming and unbelievable stories like this. And tell me in the comments, do you believe that dogs can sense when something is wrong? Have you ever experienced a moment where an animal seemed to understand your emotions? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, let's dive into the full story. The night was colder than usual. The wind howled softly through the cracks of the small house, brushing against the crib where the newborn lay. The baby's tiny fingers curled into fists as it whimpered, unaware of the devastating loss that had just occurred. The walls of the home, once filled with love and laughter, now stood silent. But not entirely. In the dim light of the room, a pair of deep brown eyes watched over the infant. The German shepherd, once just a family pet, was now the only guardian left. His ears twitched at every sound, his body tense with an unshakable sense of duty. Something inside him told him that the little human needed him. Hours passed, but no one came. No familiar footsteps. No comforting voices. Just the distant hum of the night and the soft, desperate cries of the baby. The dog paced the room, sniffing at the crib, his heart pounding. He nudged the edge of the wooden frame, whimpering softly, as if trying to comfort the child. But he knew this wasn't enough. The food bowls in the kitchen sat empty. The house smelled of loss. And the baby wouldn't last much longer without help. Then, something clicked inside him. A decision. An instinct deeper than any training, stronger than any command. With one final glance at the helpless infant, the German shepherd turned and sprinted toward the door. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he knew one thing for certain: he had to find help. And time was running out. The food bowls in the kitchen sat empty. The house smelled of loss. And the baby wouldn't last much longer without help. Then, something clicked inside him. A decision. An instinct deeper than any training, stronger than any command. With one final glance at the helpless infant, the German shepherd turned and sprinted toward the door. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he knew one thing for certain: he had to find help. And time was running out. The German shepherd stood at the front door, his breath coming in quick, determined bursts. His nails scraped against the wooden floor as he paced, his mind racing. He had spent years living in this house, knowing every creaky floorboard, every scent, every routine his owners followed. But tonight, nothing was the same. The air smelled wrong, empty. He let out a sharp bark. No response. He barked again, louder this time, his deep voice echoing through the silent house. Still, no one came. The baby whimpered in the background, a heartbreaking sound that made the dog's ears twitch. His instincts screamed at him. Time was running out. He couldn't stay here. He had to act. With a powerful leap, he lunged at the door. Once. Twice. The wood shook under his weight, but it held firm. A low growl rumbled in his throat as frustration built inside him. He had seen his owners turn the knob countless times. He knew what needed to happen, but his paws weren't built for it. Then he remembered the window. Dashing to the living room, he skidded to a stop in front of the large glass pane. The street outside was empty, the distant glow of a street lamp barely illuminating the cold pavement. He jumped onto the couch beneath the window, his heart pounding. His reflection stared back at him, ears perked, eyes wild with urgency. With a deep breath, he raised a paw and swiped at the latch. Nothing. He tried again, pressing his nose against it, pushing, nudging, biting. And then, click. The window shifted. A gust of cold air rushed in as he shoved his head through the small gap, wiggling his body until he was outside. His paws hit the ground with a soft thud, and for the first time, he felt truly alone. But he had no time to hesitate. With one last glance at the house, the only home he had ever known, he turned and ran. Through the yard, past the fence, down the quiet, moonlit street. His paws hit the pavement in a rhythmic beat, his breath forming clouds in the chilly night air. Where was he going? He didn't know. He only knew one thing. He had to find help before it was too late. Little did he know, fate was already leading him exactly where he needed to be. The night stretched endlessly before him, the cold air biting at his fur as he ran. The German shepherd didn't know exactly where he was headed, only that every second mattered. His heart pounded like a drum inside his chest, but he refused to slow down. He had always been a protector, a loyal companion. And now, that tiny human back in the crib was counting on him. The streets were eerily silent, the occasional flickering street lamp casting long shadows across the pavement. The neighborhood, once familiar, now felt foreign. Every house he passed was dark, every yard empty. The world had gone to sleep, unaware that inside one of those homes, a helpless newborn was alone. He barked. Once. Twice. His deep, commanding voice echoed through the street. Nothing. He kept moving. As he turned a corner, his keen eyes spotted something ahead, a dim light glowing from the window of a small house. A house he recognized. It was her house. The old woman. She was one of the few people outside his family who had always stopped to pet him, always greeted him with a warm voice and kind eyes. Sometimes, when she sat on her porch in the afternoons, she would toss him a piece of bread or a small treat. He had never gone inside her home, but he knew she was a friend. And right now, he needed a friend more than ever. The dog bolted toward the house, his paws thudding against the ground. He reached the front porch and immediately began barking, loud, desperate, insistent. He pawed at the door, scratched at the wood, let out a sharp, pleading whimper. Inside, there was movement. A shadow passed behind the curtains. A faint, sleepy voice mumbled something from within. And then, the porch light flicked on. The door creaked open just a crack, and an old woman, wrapped in a thick robe, peered out into the night. Her wrinkled face was tired, her gray hair pulled into a loose bun. But the moment she saw the dog, saw his wild eyes, the urgency in his posture, she knew something was wrong. "Max!" she whispered, recognizing him immediately. He barked again, stepping back, then forward, then back, trying to tell her, trying to make her understand. "What is it, boy?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with concern. His fur slightly ruffled, his eyes pleading. Something was wrong. Trusting her instincts, the woman grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch. The dog took off immediately, running back toward the street, pausing only to glance over his shoulder. "Follow me." And she did. With her robe billowing in the cold night air, the elderly woman followed the German shepherd as he led her down the street, through the darkness, back toward the house where a newborn baby lay waiting. Waiting for a miracle. The old woman struggled to keep up. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps as she clutched her flashlight, its weak beam barely cutting through the darkness. But she didn't stop. Not for a second. She didn't know exactly what was wrong, but she knew this dog was trying to tell her something. And if there was one thing she had learned in her long life, it was that animals had a way of sensing things before humans did. The German shepherd ran ahead, pausing every few feet to look back at her, his golden brown eyes filled with urgency. He needed her to hurry. Finally, they reached the house. The moment the woman stepped onto the front porch, a chill ran down her spine. The place felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. She reached for the doorknob, hesitated, then slowly pushed it open. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the air was thick, unmoving. The house smelled faintly of something she couldn't quite place. Stale air, something abandoned. Then, she heard it. A sound so faint, so fragile, that for a second she thought she had imagined it. A cry. The woman's heart lurched in her chest. She turned toward the dog, her eyes wide. "Oh my God!" she whispered. Max bolted forward, leading her down the hallway. The woman followed, her pulse hammering in her ears. Someone was in this house. And then she saw it. A small crib, tucked away in the corner of a dimly lit room. And inside, a baby. The child was weak, its tiny hands trembling slightly as it let out another soft cry. Its face was red, its breaths uneven, as if it had been crying for hours and had no more strength left. The woman's hands flew to her mouth. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. "Oh, sweet heavens!" she gasped, rushing forward. She carefully scooped the infant into her arms, cradling the tiny body against her chest. The baby was cold, too cold. It had been left alone for who knows how long. Tears welled in her eyes as she gently rocked the child, whispering soft reassurances. "Shoo, little one. You're safe now. I've got you." She turned to Max, who was standing beside her, panting lightly. His eyes were locked onto the baby, his ears twitching as if he was making sure the child was okay. The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. This dog had saved this baby's life. If he hadn't come to her, if she had ignored his barking, if he had given up, this child might not have made it through the night. Choking back a sob, the woman pulled out her phone with shaky hands. She needed to call someone. The police? An ambulance? Someone had to know what happened here. But before she could dial, she looked down at the baby. Then at the dog. And in that moment, she made a decision. One that would change all of their lives forever. The old woman stood frozen for a moment, cradling the tiny baby against her chest. The weight of the situation pressed down on her, making her knees weak. How long had this child been alone? How could something so tragic have happened? And most importantly, what would happen next? She looked down at Max. The German shepherd stood beside her, his body tense, his deep brown eyes locked onto hers as if waiting for her to make the next move. He had done his part. Now, it was her turn. Taking a deep breath, she reached for her phone and dialed 911. The call felt like a blur. She explained everything as best she could. A baby, alone in a house. No parents in sight. A dog who had somehow led her to the child just in time. The operator assured her that help was on the way. But as she hung up, she felt something tug at her heart. She looked down at the infant, who had finally stopped crying. Its tiny fingers curled around the fabric of her robe, holding on as if sensing that for the first time in a long time, it wasn't alone. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. She had lived alone for so many years. Her house had always been quiet, filled only with old memories and the ticking of a clock that never seemed to move any faster. And now, in this moment, standing in this cold, dark house, she realized something she never expected. Maybe, just maybe, this was meant to happen. Minutes later, red and blue lights flashed through the windows. The sound of sirens broke the silence of the night. Max let out a low whine as officers stepped into the house, their voices calm but serious as they took in the scene. Paramedics rushed forward, gently checking the baby over. "It's a miracle this child is alive," one of them murmured. "Another few hours alone, and—" He didn't finish the sentence, but the old woman knew what he meant. She held Max close, stroking his fur. It wasn't just a miracle. It was him. The police asked their questions, but there were no immediate answers. No one knew exactly what had happened to the baby's parents. There was no sign of forced entry, no note left behind. Just an empty house and an abandoned child. And a hero dog. As they prepared to take the baby to the hospital for further care, one of the officers turned to the old woman. "Do you know if the baby has any family?" She hesitated. Then, before she even realized what she was saying, the words left her lips. If there isn't anyone," she said softly, "I'll take care of him." The room went silent. Even Max, as if understanding what had just been said, sat perfectly still, his ears perked forward. "You're sure?" the officer asked, surprised. She nodded, holding the baby just a little closer. "I've been alone for a long time. I think maybe it's time for that to change." A few weeks later, after all the necessary paperwork and checks, the baby officially had a new home. A warm home. A safe home. And Max, he never left the baby's side. Not for a second. He curled up beside the crib every night, his eyes always watching, always protecting. He had lost one family, but now he had a new one. A little boy and his loyal dog. Two souls, abandoned, but saved by love. Dear friends, let us know in the comments what you think about this heroic story of a German Shepherd named Max. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos every day. You can also watch the video you see on the screen. Thank you.